All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're zeroing in on July 6th, 2026. This was the day the NBA moratorium ended, and honestly, the day the old basketball landscape was completely obliterated by four massive blockbusters. If you thought you had a handle on the balance of power in the league, yeah, you can go ahead and throw all of that right out the window. July 6, 2026 marks the exact moment the status quo collapsed. It just gave way to this unrecognizable new world for the league. I mean, we saw four separate mega deals go down on the exact same day, involving former MVPs, finals MVPs, and literal franchise cornerstones. The league map has effectively been redrawn from scratch. So, we're going to break down this incredible anthology of mega deals into four parts. 1. Giannis joins the Heat. 2. Jaylen Brown to the Sixers. 3. Kawhi returns to Toronto. And 4. LaMelo heads to Minnesota. Let's dig into who moved, what it costs, and why this changes absolutely everything. Starting with part 1, Giannis joins the Heat, and the 13-month saga concludes. We really have to start with the biggest earthquake of them all. After 13 months of intense speculation, two-time MVP Giannis Antetokounmpo is officially heading to South Beach. Miami manages to pair Giannis with Bam Adebayo, which, let's be honest, creates an absolute front-court nightmare for the rest of the league. In return, Milwaukee enters a total rebuild under their new coach Taylor Jenkins. They get a mountain of young talent, guys like Tyler Hero and Jaime Jaquez Jr., plus a massive, massive treasure chest of draft capital. But when you look at a deal of this size, you've got to ask yourself, why? Why did Milwaukee finally pull the trigger? And why Miami? Giannis gave 13 years to the Bucks. He brought them a title in 2021. So what was the actual tipping point here? Well, it all boils down to security. Giannis made it crystal clear he wanted a 3-year max extension. Boston actually had a shot at him, but they decided to play hardball and only offered 2 years. That refusal caused the entire Boston deal to just completely collapse. And of course, that allowed Pat Riley and the Heat to swoop in, work that classic South Beach magic, and give Giannis exactly the structure he demanded. $275 million. Just let that number sink in for a second. That is the staggering 4-year Supermax extension Giannis becomes eligible to sign on January 6, 2027. Miami isn't just renting a superstar for a season. They are locking in their new superpower for the foreseeable future. All right, part 2, Jaylen Brown to the Sixers. A decade-long Celtic era ends. Let's see how this builds directly off that failed Giannis negotiation we just talked about. This one involves the reigning 2024 Finals MVP. In a truly stunning interdivision swap, the Sixers land Jaylen Brown, while Boston acquires 9-time All-Star Paul George along with a total war chest of 4 draft picks. I mean, seeing Boston and Philadelphia, two fierce, historic rivals, execute a trade of this magnitude is basically unheard of. It seems crazy, right? Why would you trade a player who has won 523 combined games? That's more than anyone else in the last decade, even Nikola Jokic. So why did the Celtics deal him to a direct rival? Remember those failed Giannis talks? Well, the friction from Boston, including Brown in those negotiations, completely fractured their relationship. The trust was just totally broken. And this opened the door for Philly's new president, Mike Gansey, to offload Paul George, who, as we know, struggled with injuries and that 25-game drug test suspension, to form a terrifying new Big Three in Philadelphia with Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and Jaylen Brown. Boston, meanwhile, officially shifts into the solo Jason Tatum era. Moving on to part 3. Kawhi returns to Toronto, a full circle moment. This takes us north of the border, where the man who delivered the 2019 NBA championship is heading back to Canada. Toronto gave up former All-Star Brandon Ingram, young prospect Grady Dick, and 5 future draft assets to end Kawhi's 6-year, injury-riddled run in Los Angeles. The Clippers are officially pulling the plug on the Kawhi era, but they're getting a massive return of unprotected picks to jumpstart their pivot. But again, we have to ask why. The Clippers literally just opened their new Intuit Dome, and their stated plan was to win with Kawhi. What prompted this sudden, massive pivot to a younger direction? Okay, the drama here is wild. First off, Kawhi forced their hand by declaring Toronto his only long-term destination. The Clippers were already hesitant to make long-term commitments given his injury history, but there's also a massive off-court factor. The Clippers are dealing with an intense, independent NBA investigation regarding a $28 million endorsement deal between Kawhi and Aspiration, which is actually a company Steve Ballmer invested in. With all that heat and Toronto willing to bet the house that Kawhi still has an apex ceiling, the trade was struck. $123.7 million. That's the maximum 2-year extension Kawhi is expected to sign with Raptors executive Bobby Webster. By doing this, Kawhi is cementing his plan to likely end his Hall of Fame career right where he became a Toronto legend back in 2019. Can lightning strike twice? Toronto sure hopes so. Part 4, LaMelo heads to Minnesota. A star backcourt is born. This brings us to our fourth and final pillar, giving the Western Conference a massive jolt of electricity. Minnesota is betting the farm here, guys. They are sending former Sixth-Man of the Year Naz Reid and a massive haul of 7 total draft assets to Charlotte to pair LaMelo with Anthony Edwards. The Timberwolves are officially all in. Charlotte took full advantage of LaMelo's healthiest season to sell high and stack up draft capital for a true rebuild under their recently extended coach, Charles Lee. Meanwhile, Minnesota, who, by the way, interestingly also traded Julius Randle to Brooklyn to help make room for this, they desperately wanted a second elite creator next to Anthony Edwards. So now they've united the number 1 and number 3 picks of the 2020 draft, creating arguably the most lethal, high-scoring backcourt in the entire league. To understand exactly why Minnesota paid such an incredibly steep price, look at this number, 272. That is how many three-pointers LaMelo hit last season. That ranked second in the entire NBA. He brings the elite floor spacing and playmaking that the Timberwolves desperately needed to take that next step. And that brings us to Part 5, the new NBA landscape, status quo versus the new world. The crucial takeaway here is bringing all of this together. These 4 trades didn't just shuffle some players around. They completely rewrote the competitive hierarchy of the league in a single day. We're looking at a fundamentally transformed NBA. Miami and Philly are now absolute heavyweights in the East. Boston has to figure out how to adapt to losing a foundational piece of their decade-long success. Toronto is going all in on pure nostalgia and the hopes of a healthy Kawhi. And Minnesota, well, they're just looking to completely outscore everyone in the West. So, with the old world dead and the power dynamics completely unrecognizable, the only question left to ask is, amidst all this chaos, which of these new juggernauts is going to conquer the league first?